welcome to Biz Jet TV. My name is Fabrizio Poli, and today we're going to be talking about my prediction on the surge of sales of private jets as a result of the coronavirus. While the coronavirus right now is really destroying the commercial aviation industry, there's going to be a surge in private jet sales and private jet usage as a result of this virus. But before we get into the episode, if you haven't subscribed to Biz Jet TV, I encourage you to subscribe. But I'm just going to give you some exclusive news today on Biz Jet TV. There's a lot of talk because of this coronavirus and the effect it's having on the economy that, you know, there's going to be a global currency reset. Yes, and you'll be able to buy aircraft, your private jet, not only in US dollars, but there's a new currency which is about to be launched, and you never guess what it is. It is toilet paper. So those of you that have stocked up on toilet paper, you'll be able to trade your toilet paper, it must be new, they're not pre-owned, for your private jet. Now, apart from jokes, let's get straight into the episode today about my prediction on the surge of sales of private jets because of the coronavirus. Off we go. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is history and also science fiction to help us to understand what's actually happening and what's going to happen with the private jet market. Now, Isaac Asimov, the famous science fiction writer, wrote a series of novels called Foundation. And in fact, interestingly enough, Amazon are making a TV series about it right now. And in Foundation, they talk about these psychohistorians. And what a psychohistorian is, it's somebody that studies history but also studies psychology and then applies psychology to history in order to predict the future. So if we look at history and of private aviation, and we also look at psychologically what's happening right now with the coronavirus, it allows us to apply this psychohistory model invented by Asimov and look at what's going to be happening in the next 10-15 years with private aviation. So if we go back to September 11th, which was one of these black swan events, a bit like the coronavirus, which had a big effect on the economy. Lots of companies went bust. And also the other factor was it affected the aviation industry in particular because of the 4 airplanes that were crashed into the buildings and whatnot. Now, that had a big knock-on effect on the airline market, with a lot of airlines going bust, and this caused a lot of disruption in the industry. But as all this was happening, if we track back a few years before September 11th, back in 1986, a Goldman Sachs mathematician called Richard Santulli bought a company called Executive Jet Management. He then, which was a private jet management company and charter company, he then came up with the fractional model, fractional ownership model for private aviation, and he applied it into the business jet arena, and this was back in 1986. Now, then Warren Buffett came in and invested in the company in 1999. He invested in the company. Back then they had 169 jets, and then what happened in 2012 is NetJets, which is 2002. What NetJets did is they went out and they ordered 425 jets. Now, for $9.6 billion. So we noticed that just after September the 11th, there's this big investment into the private jet business by Warren Buffett. And this then, obviously, the name of the company changes from Executive Jet Management to NetJets. And they start rolling out the whole concept of the NetJets and the whole fractional ownership thing. Acquiring clients all over the world, growing the fleet from 169 jets to now 604, which is what they're at right now. If we look at the growth, 2019 growth of NetJets, they had a growth of 9.4% in a year. Well, FlexJet, which is the other fractional ownership company, had a 30% growth. So we see fractional ownership growing, but also we see private jet ownership growing. And this happened as a result of 9/11. Now, why did this happen? From a psychological standpoint, you think of those companies that had people on those 4 jets that crashed, that if they had been flying private, this wouldn't have happened. And then you think of the disruption, the people, you know, a bit worried about flying with the airlines because they don't know who else is on that airplane that could maybe blow the airplane up. You know, they're afraid of terrorism. So companies started to think, well, you know what, we're going to buy a fractional thing, or we're going to charter a jet, or we're going to buy our own aircraft. So as a result of that, private jet ownership has gone up. Also, the other thing that kicked in after September 11th was the security checks in airports and TSA security, where now for some flights you have to turn up 3 hours before the flight, and there's a lot of disruption this is causing, delays. I mean, you've got 26% chance of being delayed if you travel with commercial airlines. The other thing is then a number of studies came out from Nexa advisors, for example, and they discovered that, for example, the companies that flew and used private aviation had a 434% higher growth than those that didn't. And then if you look at the profits, the share price of those companies using private jets compared to those that don't, it's 156% higher share price value. So where all these studies started to come out, which to show, you know, that private aviation, those companies using private aviation, were doing a lot better than those that weren't flying with the airlines. Now let's look at what's happening right now with the coronavirus, and this obviously is having effect on air travel, with a lot of airlines now are not flying. They've grounded their airplanes. There are restrictions going into certain countries, but the private jets are still flying. Now, yes, there are restrictions. For example, now if you want to fly from the UK to the US, I couldn't fly on a private jet because I'm a British citizen and I reside here in the UK at the moment. So I couldn't fly to the US until this ban is lifted, which will happen probably around about the 10th of April. But, you know, there's a lot of places that I could go with a private jet. And also, the other thing is, with the private jet, you know the crew. The jet can be disinfected, so you know no viruses will spread because you control the airplane if you own the airplane. So this is what's going to happen psychologically now. People are going to start to think, well, you see what happened to the economy when we had the coronavirus. A lot of people weren't able to travel for business, but if we had a business jet, then we could have still made those trips. And we could have still made those trips safely because we knew the pilots, we know the flight attendants, we know where they've been, we know they're clear of the virus, we've had them tested, you know, they're our own pilots. Also, we can have the airplane disinfected. We can also select certain people from our team to travel on those flights. They can go out in the morning, come back in the evening, or go away for a 2-day trip if it's a long distance flight. So this is what's going to happen psychologically. Now, already before the coronavirus, they're predicting that the global forecast for business aviation between now and 2030, they're expecting a 3.6% growth per year on this, which is going to be a tremendous amount of growth in business aviation, in particular on the large aircraft market, the long distance travel. That's what they were predicting before. But if we look at what happened to the private jet industry after September 11th, where there was basically a surge because of what happened historically and the psychology involved, my prediction is we're going to see a similar situation happen now. And then the other factor, which I've always talked about here on Biz Jet TV, is, you know, business is accelerating. And so people do want to travel more. And so you factor in that as well. There is going to be a big growth. So if you're watching this channel, you're watching this episode because you're thinking along the lines of, well, maybe we should have our own private jet. You know, private jet obviously costs money. It's not cheap, but you can lease a jet for 6 months to a year, year and a half. And I do offer those type of programs. If you ping me an email, I'll schedule you in for a call. But I do encourage you to have a look at the other episodes here on Biz Jet TV. The purpose of this channel is to educate you on private aviation and how the business jet is a business tool and how to use it, different types of jets, how to buy a jet and that. I encourage you to go and have a look at this video here, how to buy a private jet, and then also check this other one about Tesco's versus Walmart. There's two companies here and look at how one was using private jets and one wasn't using them so much. They had two different philosophies. Look at what happened business-wise. This is a business case, which is very interesting to look at. And then obviously go and look at the rest of the content there. And if you want a specific information, if you want to find out more about what your business can do with a business jet, then I recommend to do a one-to-one call with myself, and I can be very, very specific once I know more about your company needs and the market that you're in that. So that's really, that's my prediction, but I encourage you to comment below. Let me know what you think. Do you think there's going to be a surge in private jet sales after this coronavirus thing is through? And what your view is on it. Give us the thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to Biz Jet TV, please subscribe. There's lots more content coming. And that's all from Fabrizio Poli on Biz Jet TV, and I'll see you on the next one.